This little tutorial is going to show you how to configure Visual Studio Professional, the 2013 version, to do the labs in the class. The first thing you should have done actually already is to have downloaded a free copy of Visual Studio Professional 2013 from DreamSpark. If you haven't done that, go to the site and here at DreamSpark for Students, click Learn More. And on this next page, it'll walk you through the steps to first create an account and then download the software. So download Visual Studio 2013 to whatever platform you're going to be using in this class. So once that's done, first thing you need to do is then go to this site, asmirvine.com, which is the author of your textbooks website. And he's created some really helpful tutorials and information that'll expedite hugely your being able to do the labs in this class using Visual Studio IDE. First thing you need to do then is click the link Getting Started with MASM. MASM is an abbreviation for Microsoft Assembler and Visual Studio 2013. He's written this for the Express Edition, which is, for all intents and purposes, very, very similar to the Professional Edition for our purposes. There are some slight variations in little things like where radio buttons are and stuff like that. I would strongly recommend you use Professional. All of the tutorials I'm going to be doing, assume you use Professional, which you can get for free. But if you follow this link, you can get the Express Edition as well. Okay, first thing here is to install his example programs and configuration files. Actually, you click this link, go to this page on his site, and select example programs and link library source code for 7th edition using Studio 2012 and 13. One more time, I haven't said it in this video, but you do not buy the 6th edition of the book, buy the 7th edition. That's why it's a required textbook. There's significant differences between the two. You're not going to be able to do the lab work if you get the 6th edition, amongst other things. The quiz questions are different. It's a lot of stuff that's different. All right. So once you've installed these, you're going to have on your C drive, and please take the default path for installation, or you're going to have some path resolution problems that I'm not going to help you solve. Once you take install that software, you're going to have an Irvine folder with a bunch of files in it. And you're not going to have this folder, but you're going to have an examples folder. And within that, there are folders for examples from each chapter in the book, and also a couple of other folders here. Okay, after you've done that, there's sort of an optional step. I recommend doing this within Visual Studio. Follow these steps to basically start without debugging. You can add that command to the debug menu. I'll show you that once we get over to Visual Studio. It's not required, but it's helpful. This is required. You need to select the C++ configuration of Visual Studio Professional. We don't have an assembly language configuration, but this is as close to it as we can get. This is required. Okay, after you've done that, then you're ready to basically build your first project. And he's provided you with a sample project. So we're going to and some sample source code to put in it. A project is just a folder that collects files associated with some development you're doing. Every IDE I know of requires projects, and most of the project maintenance is done for you automatically. So in order to use Studio to do the work, you need to do it within projects. So we're going to just follow these steps as he's presented them here. First thing he suggests you do is to copy the examples folder that you saw a minute ago to somewhere else. Basically create a copy of it on your hard drive, not on a USB drive. Too slow. Then start Visual Studio. Then we're going to use an example project that he's created. We're going to open that. So let's go ahead. Here's Visual Studio. If I click File menu, Open, Project Solution. Right now we're on the C drive, Irvine Examples folder. Okay. If I scroll down here to the Project 32 folder, which he wants us to open, there's some files in here. Here's a project file. Project files have a .lsn extension. It's called a solution file. That's what we want. We want to open that within Visual Studio. There it is. Okay. I've already done this, so, but I'm going to try to follow his steps and kind of undo some stuff so it maps exactly to what he's saying. So here we are. There's the project in our Explorer pane, or Explorer window right here. Okay. If we go back and look, after you open the project in the Project 32 folder, project.sln, once the project has been opened, you're going to see the project name in the Explorer window. Okay. If there are any files with a .asm extension, you're supposed to delete them. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. There's this file that has a .asm extension. .asm is the extension for assembly language source files, much like in C++. Source files have an extension of .cpp, or in C it's .c. In Java it's .java. In Python it's .py. Anyway, we want to delete it, so I'll highlight it and just press the delete key and it's gone. Okay? That's how you delete most stuff in this IDE. The next thing we want to do is to add an existing source code file named main.asm to the project. To do that, you're going to right-click on the project itself, the name project, and select Add and then Existing Item. Then we're going to go to the Examples folder, and within it there's Chapter 3 folder, and select Add to.asm. Okay, that's the file I just deleted, but I want to do this in the order he's telling you to do it here. So to add, I'm going to right-click on the project, select Add Existing Item. I'm going to go out to the Examples folder because we're in Project 32, obviously. Open up the Chapter 3 folder. Select Add to ASM, which is an assembly language source file. If you look at the properties, it has an ASM extension. We're going to add it to the project. Click Add. And there it is. If I right-click on it, there's the source code with some directives. We'll talk about that in a week or two. Next thing we need to do is build the project. Building a project basically creates an executable file where you can run the project or debug it. A build step is actually, in assembly language, is a combination of first an assembler step, where an assembly language program called an assembler generates machine language from the assembly language source code. If there are no errors, then we link it to create the executable object. Much like in C++, we first compile the C++ to generate machine language, then link any external references to create an executable file. Okay, so to build, there's a number of different ways you can build. I can right-click on project and select build. There's a build button here. There's a build menu item. I can click that or press F7. So let's build it. You can see the build succeeded. If it failed, the primary reason, there's a number of reasons it could have failed actually, but probably if you follow these steps correctly to this point, it's possible that the project you have was built with an earlier version of this studio. I doubt that, but if it was, or if it happens to you during the semester, you're not going to see it here, but if I right-click on project, there will be an item here, another item that basically says you need to rebuild, update your tools so that this particular project is built with the correct tools. So it'll rebuild it with the correct tools because it was built with an old tools. That's not the case here. Our build succeeded, but just kind of keep that in the back of your head. Okay, so we've built the project. One of the files that is created actually after the assembly process is a listing file. Let me show you the listing file. We oftentimes will submit the listing file as one of the files required for lab assignments. So if I go out to the C drive and go back into the Irvine folder, go down to the Project 32 folder where we were doing our work. It's in the examples folder down at the bottom here. There's a MASM file called a listing file. I'll do a tutorial on this later, but that's the file I'm requesting that you submit for this lab. It proves to me you've correctly set up your lab and generated the file. This file wouldn't be here if you weren't able to complete these steps, at least most of them. So that really is the extent of what you need to do for this first lab. The whole point here, obviously, for you to download either the Express edition or preferably the professional edition of Visual Studio 2013. Set it up correctly following Kip Irvine's steps that I've gone through here with you. Generate a listing file and submit it as your homework. Okay.